It's all gonna save money, do wonderful things. Yeah. Just get rid of salt. Good enough.
Ready? Welcome everybody to the February 6th Board of Trustees meeting for the Village of Flower Hill. Let us all rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. And Alexandra Dorfman.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job.
Thank you very much. All right, first order of business is public comment. Alexandra, you don't have anything for us?
I'm a representative for Alexander Dorfman.
Excellent.
She would like, if she could, that would be great to pave Chestnut Road because she likes to do a run on Drake Lane. They have a nice smooth, ride her bike and roll down there, so she'd appreciate it if you do that on Chestnut as well.
So we do keep a road grading scorecard on our village website where we pretty much A, B, C, D, and E rate the roads. So you can check on that. Your mom can show you where it is or your dad can show you where it is on the website. And we will be reevaluating the roads soon, right, Rich, after the snow season ends. So you'll have a new scorecard in maybe 2 months. And then you could see kind of where Chestnut would be on the priority list. Because there's some other roads you'll see that I'm sure as a bike rider or skateboarder, you'll see they're terrible. And we usually want to get to the worst roads first.
It's the only short part you want to be bad.
But we'll
Yeah,
get
bad is good.
In this case.
If your road is really bad, then we'd get to it first. But I know there's there are a couple of roads that really need work. I don't know where Chestnut is, but we'll look at the scorecard and we'll get back to you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming down.
People tell you look just like your mommy.
Should I put that in the minutes, right?
Huh?
Should I put it in the minutes?
Thank you.
So cute.
Thank you. So let's start with the public hearing. I'm sorry, Mitchell, you have something to add?
Just very quickly, on Middle Neck Road, at the crosswalk, first off, what we did is terrific. Kudos to this board. But I don't think there are many people who do stop, but there are also many people who I don't think exactly remember how to exactly behave in the car at a crosswalk. Because every other time I use that crosswalk, I feel like every other time I use it and there's a car there, the car starts going and then I'm like, what's it doing? And then sometimes I'm going, sorry. So I'd like to ask the board, would this board be willing to consider perhaps purchasing or looking into purchasing a sign as specified as per the 2009 edition of the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, Chapter 2B, which is titled Regulatory Signs, Barricades and Gates. A sign number R1-6A, which is that state law stop for pedestrians within crosswalk to be placed in the median over there.
We can consider that. It might not be appropriate because we have a stop sign, and I think the stop sign possibly countermands that. But it's the stuff you see in the shopping center and you see them in Roslyn Village at the crosswalks there.
Exactly.
But we can look into that.
And by the way,
Makes sense.
It has a sister sign too. The board maybe wants to look into it on Stonytown. It's R1-6. No way, just 1-6, R1-6. And that's the yield instead of stop.
Right. But we don't want them to yield. We want them to stop.
Oh, you can use that too.
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
Well,
What I would also
Look
like
into
to do is when our regular officer comes back, Officer Nick, have him sit at the stop sign for more, because that is, something that is.
He does.
All day today.
that's
All afternoon for like 3 hours.
Going through
Useful.
a crosswalk while the pedestrian is present.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
you got it.
Good. He's going to give him stop sign tickets?
Well, give him something.
Good.
He's pulling out left and right.
Good.
Bye, Alexandra.
Bye.
See you
Bye,
later.
Karen.
Aren't there stop signs that have flashers that get activated when pedestrians are present?
Yeah, so Rich and I did some research on these types of devices, and there's putting the lights in the crosswalk itself, but even
No, I'm
after.
just talking about the stop,
But I'm
so like reinforce that, hey, there's a stop sign here, and the reason
Yeah.
why it's blinking is because someone's trying to cross.
Rich and I have been looking for flashing stop signs, and that's something we might want to consider putting up, like we already have a little further north on Middle Neck Road.
I mean, you would normally want or choose to do that, but in that case, it is, I think because it's not very clear that it's a primary pedestrian route, and B, we just recently painted it, so people are still not used to the fact that there's a pedestrian marking there, that I think we're gonna continue to have people who just kind of blow through it.
They have signs that say pedestrian crossing ahead that you could put maybe like
That's
50,
what I was gonna say.
50 feet before the stop
Yeah.
sign so that.
That helps.
Yeah, we'll look into doing more stuff, short of of speed bumps. We'll look at something.
Right.
I know, that'd be the ideal thing. Do I need to make a motion
Yes,
to,
motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll
Second. That be made.
So let's switch the order around. We're gonna do local law C first, so that our special guest can present and go home.
Hi, everyone. Judith Serfati from Rosenberg, Alta, and Bernie. My partner Ed Ross had previously appeared before you. We represented the village in connection with the lawsuit by Extenet regarding the wireless telecommunications node. After the village prevailed on that lawsuit and after Extenet withdrew its appeal, the village board and the village attorney's office requested that we look at the village wireless law and see if there's any updates that are warranted and recommended. And just in light of what was learned in that litigation, and also just to update it. And so I'm speaking tonight in support of a number of amendments to the wireless law in chapter 235 of the village code. The main change that's being proposed and that we recommend is the reason the village won the lawsuit was that the court agreed with us that its court rulings, mainly the Second Circuit Court of Appeals rulings, that define what is an appropriate standard by which a village board is to decide these wireless siting applications. And the court said, we're a court, Second Circuit's a court, and we're entitled to interpret the applicable law, and there's no reason for the court to look to the way the FCC has interpreted the law. The FCC goes back and forth every year or so on its interpretations, and the court said it's not going to follow the FCC. The main change that was put into the proposal for the wireless law is that the Second Circuit has held that it's appropriate for a village board to ask the applicant whether the applicant has a genuine need for the wireless facility. And genuine need does not mean that the applicant wants to provide internet service or wants to provide 5G or 4G service. It's just that they have a need for a wireless telephone to reach a landline, and that's it. So that level of service is sufficient, and if an application asks to install a wireless node that otherwise does not conform with what the the village standards are, and doesn't really meet that standard, the amendments would allow the board to say, well, you haven't shown that you have an actual need. So that's the main change that we put in. There were a number of other additions to the village's wireless code that were missing concerning insurance, that kind of thing. So we added those, and we also beefed up the application requirements that so that the applicant would have to actually show that they need the wireless nodes that they're proposing, and also that they show it through non-conclusory manner. So, because what happened in the case before this board, and in several other cases, that you get a map and you don't know what the map means, you don't know who created the map, and it's shading, and you don't know what the shading means, and you don't know anything. So it allows you to have a meaningful review, and it makes the applicant actually show what they want and why they want it. So that's pretty much it. I understand the village attorney is proposing that you approve this.
Well, I want to thank you and Ed for the very thorough job on rewriting our existing telecommunications or wireless communications facilities law. It's a lot to read. It's a lot to digest. I don't have too many questions on this myself. I thought it pretty much hits on all the topics that we were interested in, and the reason we put a 6-month moratorium on new cell sites within our village to tighten this up. So I don't have any questions per se on this. I mean, it's a lot to read. I don't know how much you guys had a chance to read and see the depths of this, but if you have any other questions, he's the guy to answer them now. We could get them by email, but it's better if there's no.
One question I had as I read through it, I think if I understood it correctly, if someone puts up an antenna and then they were to go and upgrade it or change the service, that it will require a reapplication with the village. Is that true or no?
There was no significant change in terms of that. The law in this area is that if it increases the height of the pole, then it has to be, I think it's 10%, I believe. Then it's considered a meaningful enough change to require a new application. But there were no major changes to that, and I don't think. We try to, but that actually the FCC has spoken on, and I think courts follow the FCC on that.
Gotcha. All right.
Great.
So if there is, besides if there's a change in the pull up, there's something of equipment that's not on the pull up materially changed. How's that?
I believe it goes by, so we're talking about a pole that's already being used. We're not talking about like a utility pole that's not being used, because of that we made sure to clarify that in these amendments, that if it's if it's a utility pole that wasn't previously being used, that's considered a new application.
Right.
But if it was previously being used, I think the FCC applies a percentage criteria. And I know it definitely applies to height, and I don't recall whether it applies to like protruding in multiple. I just don't remember. I just have to commend this board for doing what's a post-mortem type of update of the law after litigation, because it's the kind of thing that you learn a lot by this litigation. You learn some things that need to be improved in your law, and this is exactly the time to do it.
Right.
One thing I want to raise too, I think we should look at the fees. I know there's rules around fees, but I think going through that permit process we encumbered a lot of costs, even some of them were supposed to be split with the applicant. And I don't even know if we recouped all of them, but that's one section I want to make sure we take a look at, and having gone through the process, make sure that whatever we're charging in fees, we collect early on in the process.
Right, so the amendments say that the fees will be listed in a schedule. We will, with the village attorney, we'll try to create a fee schedule and have it for the next meeting. There are limitations on the amount of fees that can be imposed. Again, the FCC. We convinced the court not to defer to the FCC on certain criteria for, what is appropriate for the board to consider in denying an application, but fees, they do seem to defer. But the FCC has said that there is a presumptive amount that's appropriate and very low. But presumptive doesn't mean, final. So we might, and we're in an area where the costs are higher, Long Island and around here in particular, the village incurs more significant costs, and we're going to look at the actual cost that this village has incurred in connection with previous applications, and we'll try to prepare a schedule that conforms with its actual cost.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we can approve, this is only our first public hearing on this, but we can approve the local law, let's say at the next board meeting, and then do a fee schedule subsequently. Same meeting or a subsequent meeting afterwards. We don't, it doesn't have to be at the same time, but it does give us some time to just analyze other fees and make sure that nothing is in violation of the FCC guidelines, because I could see some villages saying it's $1 million fee, and that just becomes unreasonable.
We're setting ourselves up for a lawsuit.
Exactly. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Do I need to make a motion?
Just a thought, the law is posted on the website, maybe in your mayor's letter, you can tell people that if they'd like to look at these local laws, they are on the website.
Sure.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now,
What I just said that if it's your intention to keep the hearing open.
It is.
hearing open, then I would recommend that you adjourn the hearing to the next date for board trustees meeting.
I will make that motion.
okay, motion to adjourn to March 6th.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, and okay, motion by the mayor, second by trustee Franklin.
All in favor?
Favor?
Aye.
Right?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, good night.
Our second local law is Local Law A of 2023, regulating signs in the right of way. We've spoken about this a few times, but this is our first, I think, Ronnie, this is our first public hearing on this one,
Oh, okay.
even though we have discussed it a few times. This is literally just to make sure that signs, when they're no longer needed, in the case of, let's say, election signs that have been left out way after an election, are removed from people's properties. We
The
received,
village's property.
This is
Right
more
away.
about
right,
village property, I thought.
yes,
Right.
sorry, the right of way,
Corners and the
yes.
medians, right?
So
Yes.
wait, I have a question.
Sure.
Like, it come June and you get those, congratulations, Johnny, class of 2023, the things up all summer long. Am I imagining that?
No, you're right.
Preschool?
No, there's sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, the graduation signs, I'm just picturing our poor code enforcer going up to, their kids,
That's not going to happen.
just saying.
My daughter's graduating this year
Are you
from
going
high
to
school.
sign up?
I'm putting that sign up and it's staying there until it fades away, Mary Jo.
Until she graduates.
Until she graduates. No, I'm sure she'll make me take it down within 4 minutes. She hates signs.
But
but
there
they
are
are-
people that seriously,
Yes,
it
They're
is
up all
up.
summer, yeah.
But this,
There is a sign, I think on Wood Valley.
Yeah.
Thanking the first responders.
Yeah, that's been up
since
for-
the pandemic,
yeah, it's been up for 3
before the
years.
pandemic.
Yeah.
And now the guy who put the septic system in has the sign, the Nassau County septic,
No, that's actually, I'm glad that sign's there. That's a good sign, so people can see that that's
Well,
one of the green and
so we have to have a list of good signs and bad signs.
Well,
It's a good sign.
I don't know what our council would say about that as far as enforcement.
The Ministry of Signage.
Although, to Mary Jo's point though, that those signs should be on their property, not in the right of way.
Oh, so if they're on their property, they should stay up all summer?
The middle of all that
Yeah, what are
stuff.
you gonna do?
Mary Jo, if it's on someone's property, it could probably stay up for all eternity.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't, the only signage we restrict,
Is the
I
in the right
believe,
of way.
is commercial signage like,
Contractor.
house for sale.
Or contractor.
When Chuck Weiss was the mayor, they got rid of, they
Gotcha.
prohibited that. And obviously contractors and all that type of stuff. So,
I think this puts us in a much better position though with the signs when they start littering the medians, the corners, right?
oh, it's
where
terrible.
People are taking advantage of the fact of like, you put it on the corner of the street where, did the homeowner put it up or did somebody else put it up? At least now we're in a situation where Nick, or not Nick, that's the police officer, a code enforcer or Jack or Rich, can take them down and have enforcement for the law behind it. you know?
Right. I think that's why we
Hopefully,
put together this lovely local law. We're not restricting freedom of speech, we're just restricting signs in our right of way.
The placement, yeah.
If there's no other questions or comments, I'll make a motion to, what's my motion
This
to,
is the first
public hearing, so we'll move it to, adjourn it to the, I forgot the adjourn word, adjourn this to next month.
Okay, and I'll second on that.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And this leads into local law B. Where am I losing my mind on this one? Aha. Ronnie, why am I losing my mind on
Okay,
this one?
this is,
Is this removing the word willfully?
yes.
Thank you. So in our code, our current code, chapter 172-11, we had the word, in property maintenance, we had the word willfully in the code. And basically what we're doing is removing the word willfully because in the case of water that's being discharged from one property to another, it was difficult for our code enforcer to deal with those types of things because you had to prove that the uphill landowner was willfully dumping water on the lower level landowner. And it was, with all these crazy rains we have, and even with some of the not so crazy rains, with a lot of the construction that's happened with retaining walls and whatnot, there has been some issues of neighbor A and neighbor B with water. And by removing the word willfully from our code, it allows our code enforcer to issue a violation to the uphill person who's discharging water down below. I got that one right, Ronnie?
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Any questions? Comments? Motion to adjourn to March 6th,
I'll make the motion.
and a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And motion to close the public hearing portion of our.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think we should close the public hearing. It's okay.
Motion to close the public hearing portion of the meeting.
Portion.
Yes. I'll make that motion.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 3rd, 2023 regular meeting?
I read them. I'll make the motion.
Okay, and do you have a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Dorfman? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and treasurer's report. Any questions? Our treasurer is on vacation.
I do have a question. The $60,000 charge?
Yep, that's for the software that we approved for the
Oh, okay.
financial accounting software.
And then that includes the source paths, that's for the firewall and the sidewall.
That's, okay, yeah, that's for our IT company.
So two separate items. One is the cloud-based software to replace our existing, and the other one is to replace our firewall that might be, I don't want to get into specifics since it's public.
No, right.
It's an old firewall that needs to get updated. And
Yeah.
It's a regular,
Enough said.
like a regular maintenance thing that every 2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
it's an outdated piece of hardware.
Yeah, well,
We need to protect those things. Yeah.
keep it on the down low.
Architectural review.
We have to, I'll make the motion to accept these.
Yeah, approve the.
Max, as always, will
Oh,
abstain from the art of landscaping. Wait, I don't see the art of landscaping on this. Did we, they don't have any tree permits this month?
Maybe not.
There's there, second page. It's from the bottom.
Oh, okay, because I was looking under A for art of landscaping. I forgot. So I've reviewed all the check requests. I sign off on each one every month. I look at each one over. So I'd like to make the motion to approve this.
second,
I'll second it.
okay, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Architectural review.
January 30th, 2023, project review committee. We had 5 applications. One returning of 41 Knollwood was a first floor addition. It came back and that application was approved as submitted. New applications, 26 Sycamore, which was roof mounted solar panels. We had a couple of minor comments for that, so that was approved with those conditions. Third one is 32 Woodland Road, a second floor rear addition and interior alterations. We had some broad comments on that needed to be re-looked at, and we asked them to come back. Just had to do with some detailing, and just really upscale the design. There are new residents at 325 Stonytown Road, this is the knockdown. Although you see a number of comments there, they were minor, minor and specific in nature. So, but the design overall was very good. And with those comments, we're asking for approval with those conditions. Another solar panel shingles, this was called 110 Pioneer Drive. This was a new product that came before us. They called it shingles, it was sort of like strips. We had some conversations about actually some code issues that may have affected the area that could be covered because of the walkable area. It wasn't like a panel, so we're hoping that if they, not to get too specific about it, with this new product, if they can get edge-to-edge coverage and still comply with fire walk along the edges, they might be able to eliminate the panels, the shingles that they had in the front of the house. So they were going to check fire marshal with that, if that was anything different, because it was a new product. So we asked them to come back with that information. And that's.
So Peter, this is not, this, just for everyone else on the board, this is not like the Tesla solar shingles. This is a different product.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that
it's
long,
glass
they're
strips.
plank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't really look like shingles, they look more like strips on, but they do blend, obviously, they sit like a shingle on a roof, not standing off the roof like a panel does.
Right.
Actually,
Peter,
the manufacturer is a roofing company, a shingle company. so-
Peter, what's the rule with fire access walkable surface on a gable roof?
Yeah, you have to have like 3-foot perimeter up the edges, so the fire
Really?
engine can get up, yeah.
Did not know
So
that.
they have to hold them off and also at the ridge. So, but that's because there's panels are glass, you can't walk on that.
Yeah.
So this is a different product, so that's why we wanted to revisit that. And we felt also, because you do notice these shingles, that they call call it, on the roof. If it went edge to edge, aesthetically it'd be much better.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then you could also do more coverage on, the rear-facing roofs, and in this case, hoping to maybe eliminate what they have in front.
Right.
So that's why I wanted to look
I
at.
wasn't aware of that gable roof. I know on flat surfaces, there's state code requires walkable, but I didn't know on gable roofs.
Yeah, it's in the-
It's pretty treacherous trying to walk up a gable roof on a fire.
Do you have,
Especially if it's slate, it's slippery.
I do have a sample. You want me to get it?
Oh, is that what you had in your office
Yeah.
before? Oh, I was wondering what that was with the wires.
Yeah, I'll bring,
Well, why don't we approve this, and while we're working on other
Yeah.
stuff, you can bring it up.
that was the last one.
Okay.
Okay, can I hear a motion to approve the findings of the architectural review committee?
I'll make the motion.
And a second,
I'll second.
and Gary is accusing. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next. Our village engineer had a conflict tonight, he's not here, but he has, the first item, Rich, do you have anything?
No.
Yeah,
Rich does have
has-
something.
What?
Rich is going to do an inventory of all of our outdated street signs. And we're going to purchase DOT, standard DOT, high-intensity signs for the street signs with the names and for any other street sign that is past its
Peter, let me
time.
see.
I know.
So it's rough. You could walk on it.
Yeah, this is the exposed shingle part.
Yeah.
And then these are they're like 6
Right.
feet
Yeah, Gary
long,
showed me the.
and they have these tracks that run.
Is this like a? Yeah, I don't know.
It's a little slippery.
Well, so's a slate roof. You ever try to walk
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
slate roof?
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
So-
worse.
so that's, again, these go about 6 feet or more long.
They're that
And then they
big?
have these channels where they connect the wires.
Is
So
it,
you do see these like
because
battens.
Gary and I talked about in the office, is it connected in series or parallel? Because that means if one of them goes out, or is it, or they go all
I
kind
don't know, they
of,
go one to the next, there's 2 wires, so it's,
you know what I'm saying, if one,
I'm sure it's in series in each.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right, it goes back and forth in each panel.
so.
because it's like, you don't want it to be like a Christmas light, where one
Well,
goes
Yeah.
out.
modern Christmas lights
You
are
would- you would
mostly in
think that they
series,
have
they're
it
not parallel.
Wired the correct way.
Sorry,
yeah.
they are
They're
parallel,
parallel,
they're
yeah.
not series anymore, yes.
That's actually really nice.
So
It's
there's-
thin.
So the next one would
Yes.
overlay this.
And that's
Like,
glass.
The black would overlay that.
How efficient are they? I mean, are they really, it's very thin.
They said this is on a square foot basis, it's not the best panel,
It's comparable.
not
to
the highest
medium
rated
grade.
panel, but it's like the average solar panel.
Because now that I see it in person, it's pretty cool. It's thin. And you apply that over the sheathing?
Yeah, it goes just like a roof
Yeah,
shingle.
over if
This
But
is weather tight as a roof shingle.
So there's no shingles under this?
No,
No,
goes
that
right
is
against the
the
sheathing.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
that is the shingle. So it sits flat, which is a big,
And then
Aesthetically,
then
big difference.
they weave in those standard asphalt shingles to the sides of it.
Gotcha.
so where
It
they.
looks like
yeah.
it's all uniform,
Yeah.
you got these batten, like I said,
And how much does it cost?
chunky battens.
How much is it like a square foot? We don't
I
know.
don't know that we got close.
I mean, I'm sure it's more expensive than regular roof, but
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's a lot nicer. Starting to look good.
Yeah.
Since we have you here, Peter.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the fire?
Fire?
Yes.
Well, I guess everybody's heard about the fire. It was Saturday night. I heard, I'll put together the pieces that I got from the owner and from being on the site. So about 5:30 people left the building. About 5:40 something, the owner got a call from the alarm company. Not that there was smoke detector, but there was a fault or something. So we got a couple of those. His brother, Lou's brother, I forget his name, was next door, went over to the building, so there was smoke, second floor. They believe it started on the west side, second floor, unit. The call came in so they called about 6 o'clock. I got the email from the mayor about 7:40. I got a call from the fire marshal about 11:40, asking me to come on the site, so I went to the site. They were asking me to get a piece of equipment there to knock the building down. Right. They thought it was-
Hold back now.
I would've brought the table.
On Saturday night?
So first of all, thank you for being on site. I know you're there till 2 a.m. But yes, they were asking at that time for us to take the building down. We don't knock buildings down.
Yeah, I said, well, who's gonna pay for this? Well,
Just the town,
buildings.
like, is there another entity that?
This was the-
town do that?
This was the fire-
They're fighting it.
The fire marshal said that?
When I got there about midnight, they were mainly in the back, because I understood the back got really hot. I think it was one of those offices had oxygen tanks in it,
Right.
and they went, and then so the back looked really bad, even though it started in the middle of that. So they were, just dumping lots of water, there's ice everywhere across the back.
It was cold.
And I met with Lou today, he has to wait, he can't do anything on the building until the fire marshal completes their investigation. He doesn't know how long that will take. But he has insurance on the building, they're starting on that investigation, and he'll evaluate what he is gonna do going forward, whether the building can anyway be saved or most likely knocked down.
The big medical building
Next to the diner.
Between Roche Beaubois and the diner.
Yeah.
That brick 3-story building.
So they have.
That building?
Yeah, it's drive by.
There was
Not much of it.
tenants
Not much
in the
left.
building, all doctors and dentists, so they were all out. I did get a call from one of the residents on the first floor asking if they could go in. I said, no way at this time. I don't know if we'll ever get in there. They have secured it with a fence that stands away from the building. There's some pieces, it looks more dangerous than it is, some of the large cornices, but they were done out of ephes foam, so some of them are hanging there. A lot of it melted with fire. The fire marshal had put placards on the doors, and I added placards, placard being condemned, on the fence going in, on the front and the back, right in front of the front doors.
Did we get any calls from, any problematic calls, I should say, from the residents behind?
No.
No.
So I have to say, that house that's right behind it on Knollwood, they had a bird's eye view of the entire fire because that house is literally at the 3rd floor level.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there were smoke issues or.
No, there
especially
was,
if there's-
there was some water pressure issues, but the Roslyn Water District did not, as far as I know, reach out to any of the residents because people, Facebook chatter, they're talking about low pressure, brown water.
We had calls about water here today, this morning.
Right. But nothing went out from the water district on Saturday. And by Sunday, no one else was complaining about anything, so.
So the night of the fire, after I was at the fire for a while, I did come back here, and I researched the files, and I was able to pull out the original drawings for the building. It was done in 1965, because I wanted to see what the construction type was and how it might affect how they fight the fire. So the construction was brick and block exterior walls. They have a steel frame, but wood joist. And if it was, they had fire cut joist on the details. You know what that is. So if basically the joist burn and fall away, they don't.
They don't tear down.
Yeah, it doesn't bring the wall down with it,
So
yeah.
helps keep that intact. So it's a good way to, for a fire, that's a good thing.
Did it pancake then?
It had to, because you could see the sky if you look through the 2nd floor window.
The first floor looks, a lot of it looks intact. Around most of all the windows are in on the
But the
first
lobby, the video I saw, the lobby there was a fire in the lobby. There were flames in the lobby.
And I saw a video that they took from the roof of the diner. The stair bulkhead had flames coming out of it, so it was in the stair tower, which is a block wall protected. So I don't know, must have been opened or violated somehow. Maybe it's of course the fire that the hose blew was possible, but a large section of the back of the roof is pulled down to the first floor.
Right.
And before anyone else asks, there was no sprinklers in the building. It wasn't a requirement when the building was built, so there's no sprinklers.
I never would guess that building was built in the sixties. I would assume that was a more recent build.
Well, they updated it, so like the details on the top were an update with the ethos, the foam detailing, it was originally brick.
It's the late 2000s, right?
So,
It's the late 2000s, right?
when they did that, yeah.
Well, we outlawed EFS back, when did we outlaw EFS? Like in
Right.
2015, 16?
For, stucco for, residential use.
Oh, so you're still allowed to use a commercial?
It's a different product.
It's equally bad product.
Yeah, but some of that.
They're all bad products.
Yeah, they had the cornices that were,
Yeah.
2 feet.
Like, just foam installation, I
It's
guess.
the big foam building.
Rather than the real stuff.
I saw pieces that way down Fourth Boulevard, past
Yes.
our house.
You can see, right, it's
Little
all
foam
washed, yep.
Pieces of the foam that, wind or whatever blew it down that way.
All right, so we're gonna keep a close eye on it, and
Shame.
hopefully, if the building can be saved, it can be saved. If the engineers say the building has to come down, we'll ensure that it comes
Yeah, I
down
wanna keep
quickly.
track of like the fire marshal's determination and where that goes, and then, I'm sure he's motivated to move things along, but, they have insurance companies to deal with.
Right.
Yeah, it takes time.
And my concern is it's near another building where, the diner where there's lots of people, so we wanna make sure everybody's safe.
Right, well, certainly we'll keep that security fence in place.
Yep.
Moving forward.
Great, well, thank you again for
Thanks.
getting out of bed
Thank you.
at midnight on Saturday.
Well,
It's the glamorous job of being a.
my wife said, why did you pick up the phone?
That's why I keep my phone in the other
Sounds like
bedroom.
my wife, right?
All right, so we got from Rich that we're gonna redo our street signage.
Are the street name signs as well?
Anything that needs, there are some that are really bad shape. Right by your house, Brian, I'm surprised you even ever point that one.
Yeah, there are some that driving around that are all dark and brown and. dirty.
We're going to update them all. Yeah, whatever needs to be updated, so people can.
And if you ever do
see
Cherrywood Lane, Cherrywood is one word. Somehow the street sign has Cherrywood Lane. Do you know
We'll
that?
get that. Gary? I thought you wanted
Is
to
it
say
kind of just like for like replacement other than having the, whatever, the
like for
combination?
like.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, we also want to replace some of the other street signage, like the curve in the road and other things. You can't see them at night anymore. There's no reflectivity on a lot of our street
I mean, would
signs.
we consider updating the street signs to a more modern look? Why is
We-
I mean,
Brian-
it's a horrible thing that we're putting like a rectangle, we're putting a square peg. in
I
a
mean,
round
you look
hole.
at what Port North and Baxter Estates, as they replaced their signs, they put the newer ones and eventually but
We can-
I
we-
think,
we-
I think when we went down this road last time, Randall,
It was
it
very
was very
expensive.
cost prohibitive. So, I think if somebody wants to take that on and find something that is monetarily manageable, that, cost for cost.
I know Chrissy got a grant for it at Baxter. Baxter Estates was a grant.
If we could,
That I know.
if we could get a
Maybe
grant,
there's a-
then
DOT safety grant?
There's no grant for that. It's not a safety grant issue.
Chrissy they got a grant for the signs.
Really?
Street
Yes.
signs, yeah.
From who? I'll have to-
I don't know, a long time
We'll find
ago. A couple years ago.
but at a minimum, we're going to replace all the, forget the name signs, but the street sign, the curves and stop signs and things
Yeah,
that
I
are
can
worn.
see
That we
a
have to do.
grant
Well,
for,
it may have been
but
one of these grants that you can do pretty much anything you want.
There's no such thing.
All right, let's move to village
It's a small
engineers.
village, no one checks. It's very small.
Yeah, thanks.
You want, since Steve's not here, you want to review Steve's 2 items?
Okay, so, part of our intermunicipal agreement with Nassau County when we took Middle Neck Road over was that the county would reimburse us for the cost of surveying Middle Neck Road. So as you know, we already surveyed the road, but the county is also going to reimburse us for a survey of the underground utilities. So Steve put this out to bid with several companies, and we got back a bunch of bids. The low bid was Control Point Associates. So wondering if we can approve that and has a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract.
So,
with Control
so
Point.
I have a question. So if you look at the bids, it's very hard to line them up as apples with apples.
Yeah.
So Premier, I don't understand the Premier bid at all. How it's 40, there's two separate numbers, one for 15 and one for 29, which
One
comes
has
to,
a sewer workout and one doesn't.
oh, but the other two, and the other two don't have the
Go-
sewer.
Go to the,
Premier and,
go to this page.
Premier
So it's the
has
29
go,
page.
go to this page. There's a couple little.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, there's a
Gotcha.
little summary that'll tell you about the difference between those two.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, so one, that's the difference. So,
Right.
okay, so they're all pretty close then. 29, 25, 24, 22, 24.
So,
Right, but hey, listen, 22,000 versus 28,700, that's a pretty big savings.
Yeah, that's good.
That's almost 30%, so. I think we're looking to go with Control Point, correct?
Yes,
So I will, and Steve has used these guys before, I'm guessing?
I'm sorry?
Has Steve used them before? Okay, but there's nothing glaring of not to use them for any reason. Okay, so then I'll make the motion to,
What's the resolution? I'll read it.
Sorry, resolution.
Um,
It's a resolution.
Mayor is offering a resolution, and then we'll get a second after that. Be developed, the board hereby authorizes the mayor to enter into a contract with Control Point Associates of Melville, New York, for a survey of the subsurface facilities on Middle Neck Road at a cost of $22,500. Further, upon completion, bills will be billed to the county for reimbursement as per the IMA that transfers the ownership to the Neck Road. Village.
Right, so for the record, this isn't costing taxpayers, the village taxpayers anything.
Not pending.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I have a motion, a resolution by
I love
the
it.
mayor. Second,
I'll second it.
trustee Denise, all in favor?
Aye. So I'm the official mayor, trustee, seconder tonight.
Excellent.
Whatever you do, I
Okay,
second.
next, is that we are seeking
I don't have that sheet.
payment from American Pavings Bonds Company to reimburse us for the $11,500, no, sorry, $8,500 bill that we got from McGowan to redo the drainage in kind of 111 Country Club Road. And we're in the process of working on that, so to let you know, it's ongoing. Okay, we'll be reimbursed for that.
Yes, well, there's a bond, so we'll get the money off the bond, hopefully.
Okay, and next is, my report.
This little.
First, a resolution to appoint election inspectors for the village March 21st general village election. Resolution reads that the Board of Trustees under Article 15, Section 15-116 of the state election law, the board appoints the following inspectors of election for the general village election. You are appointing John Parker, Michael Poutre, and then as alternates, Anthony Rollins and Douglas Padero. And each of these individuals are qualified to serve. They've been trained by the Nassau County Board of Elections. Compensation will be paid to each inspector at $250 for the day, and all inspectors must file a constitutional oath prior to the assumption of their duties. Offer this resolution?
Oh, okay. And just a quick question. Is anybody familiar or have any relationships with any of these individuals? Just close it down. That is an issue that's come up in past elections. I just want to make sure that we avoid any conflicts of interest among the poll workers.
Don't know any of
Does
them.
occur.
I know none of them.
All right.
Okay, just want to say that both John Parker and Michael Poutre did last year's village election. Anthony Rollins has served in the past for village elections. And Mr. Spadero is a resident on Country Club Road, which I don't think is a conflict because the election law specifies that an election inspector must be a resident of the village unless our village code authorizes otherwise, that are a resident of the county. So I don't think it's a problem.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion by trustee Denise. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Next, okay, this just came up. This is a resolution to amend our employee policy to include marijuana because it is now a non-controlled substance. Previously, the policy prohibited the use of alcohol or controlled substances, since it's no longer a controlled substance. The policy is going to be amended. And this is in your packet, so under New York State cannabis law, because cannabis is now legal for adult use, the village finds that any impairment of an employee by use of this substance would be detrimental to the village. So, the section of the employment policy titled substance abuse was amended to include it.
So basically, we took the existing substance abuse policy and added the word marijuana 3 times. Correct?
What's that?
We added the word marijuana 3 different
Three
times.
times.
We just took the
Yeah.
existing,
After alcohol.
So basically, we're saying they're not allowed to use marijuana while they're working.
Correct, what you do at home is your business.
Well, same with alcohol, yeah.
just like, it's just like,
I
Well,
completely
no,
agree, I
Yep.
just wanted to.
All of our
Sure.
road crew who is
Yep.
required to be drug tested as per the Department of Transportation regulations. And, marijuana is a stay in your body for quite a while, so.
Yeah, how does that work? So, yeah, that's, I don't know how that works.
Well, they're all been excellent.
You gotta be clean.
No, I'm saying, I wonder how it works, like if somebody uses marijuana today and they get tested a week from now, how do they know that they?
for the DOT.
Yeah, we'll just state whatever the, yeah.
I thought commercial driver's license operators can't, I mean, they're not supposed to do anything.
This is not
Unless it's
allowing you to
prescribed.
do that, like, what I would say is, if someone is using cannabis and, outside of, right, work, and you're in a position that requires drug testing, there is the possibility that 5 days later,
Yeah,
you
no,
test
no.
positive, and then you're gonna have to issue work out.
Well, it's the
to
same
your
if
employer.
you're a cop, a police
You know.
officer, same thing.
That's all, I mean.
That's correct.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Okay, so can I have somebody for this resolution?
I'll make the motion.
Was that you made?
Yes.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and on your desk is a report from our village attorney, Mr. Blake Ogle, who had a conflict this evening. That's why I have this letter hold with us. But, here, I'm sorry, I didn't hand out the report. And this is the zoning board report, as well as the landmark.
Thank you.
When I take out, I'll turn it up again. And you have it.
Okay, I have no questions about the zoning. Anybody have any questions that maybe Steve could answer? Okay, perfect. Move to mayor's report.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Mayor's report.
I have a few things, so hold on, it's gonna be a bumpy road ahead of us. The first thing is I attended the Nassau County Police Department's 6th Precinct Community Meeting. That was on January 12th. Same stuff about the same tips about locking your cars, removing your key fobs, all that other fun stuff. I have a synopsis. I'll put that in the mayor's newsletter. But something I just learned, very new to me. You can, if you're going to be away for an extended period of time, you can file with the police a vacant premise report. So that would allow the local sector car to know that you're not home, and they would possibly keep a special eye on your house to, if Officer Nick knows that you're away in Florida for a week or two, or you're snowbirding down there for this winter. They know, I know, they would, they could keep an eye on your house just to see if there's something that's out of place.
Is there a certain period you have to be away for? for, or?
They didn't get into the specifics, but they said anytime you're going to be away. So my guess is you want to go to the Caribbean for a week, you can file it. But a lot of it's more for, I know, especially people can away like snowbirds, people who forget to take the mail in and leave the newspapers out, things like that. But it's pretty cool. You just call the 6th precinct. They'll send you the paperwork and you can file for that. Yeah, it's something new I never learned about. I never knew. And I think it's something good to share with the residents. I'm not going to say you're going to get private security patrol, but it's nice for the police to be able to know your house should be empty. If they see people in the house, they see activity, they'll hopefully check it out.
I did notice increased, so every night, from on my living room, I see a Nassau County police car coming down Cherry with that big light band on top. Has anybody seen that? It lights up
The
like,
whole neighborhood.
it's like the daytime.
Yep.
And it's on their light bar, it's a strip, and they, every single night I see them come down like about 9:30.
That's
So
good.
they're patrolling.
Well, that's one of the things Ronnie and I spoke to them about this almost a year ago. It's like, we know you're out there at nighttime, but our residents don't know because who's looking out
That's
the
why
window
they
and
put-
how do you, and
That's
so
why they're doing it, yeah.
that's why they're putting their floodlights and spotlights on. So A, lets the bad guys know there are cops around, and B, lets the residents know,
Great.
hey,
Great.
you
Wow.
see police on a regular
I've
basis.
never seen
they're
that in
out there.
20 years, so that's an.
Yeah,
that's a
they're
definite
making a
improvement.
big effort to be seen now because everyone keeps on saying they don't see the police, but we know they're there. I mean, I see them all the time. That's that. We're going to, you missed the Port Washington EMS meeting last week.
Yeah, I had a conflict. I didn't have a board
Good thing I
meeting.
was there. The Port Washington Fire Department is looking that part of the state code will now, it's called the Emergency Medical Services Cost Recovery Act of 22. It allows fire departments that have, in essence, a separate EMS department to be able to seek reimbursement for ambulance calls.
They can bill the insurance companies.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they're asking us to,
Chris has been pushing that for a long time.
they've been asking us to change the contract. I have some concerns about some of the verbiage in it that may or may not put this village on the hook for some expenses. So they offered to come to a board meeting. I've asked them to come to the March meeting to explain. The great thing is they're going to bring in like $700,000 potentially new revenue to the fire department.
Yeah, Chris Bolliman's been trying to push this for a couple of years now
Yeah.
because, and the Vanderbilt is really the prime. They go on like 15 calls a day to the Vanderbilt.
In the presentation I sent you,
Yeah,
I think you can
the
probably
presentation has
extrapolate
stats.
how many go to the in Port Washington North, they have a hub there, and then the one on
The one
Sands
on
Point.
Middle Neck and
Right,
Valley Road over
Yes.
there. Yeah, but
So
but the Vanderbilt is a real
Mhm.
problematic one because they get calls every hour, and
Yes,
if they transport, they don't get paid. We don't.
right.
Nobody pays.
And I didn't know this, but the Port Washington Fire Department has like 2 full-time employees and 20-something part-time paid employees
Yeah.
because they need that for the EMS service.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm also concerned about this, other than the village being on the hook for some costs, we need that to explanation of the contract. Their intention is to bring in $700,000 more revenue, but they're not looking to lower fire tax at all. So that just, I'm
Well, I
thinking
think-
you
I
bring
think-
in $700,000, you
Because
should
I
give some of the residents some relief.
I think that the intent, though, and Chris, I'm sure can clear this up with us because Chris drills this down to the penny.
Right.
I think a lot of it is to buy equipment, to upgrade some of the equipment, to ease the operating costs that the fire department.
Right.
So it may in the future show some kind of savings, but right now I think that they're at a shortfall because the EMS is costing them
Mhm.
more money than.
So listen, I think
And
it's
let's
a
face
good-
it, when you see what happened the other night, right, Peter? I mean, let's remember, these guys are volunteers, right? They don't get paid. They get the LoSAP, which is nothing.
They said two-thirds of the fire companies in Nassau were here.
It's, you know what? So anytime that they want more stuff or more equipment, look, you see what they do. It's remarkable.
Well, that's why we're
They're
going to have
volunteers.
Chris or
Yeah.
somebody else come to next board meeting to,
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed that. I had a
Review any
conflict because
questions?
I usually go to all the.
Jeff has
Board meetings.
a copy of the contract. The verbiage that I'm a little concerned about. He's going to reach out to their attorneys,
Mhm.
and hopefully before that meeting, we can come to a solution to the problem. That's that. I attended another cybersecurity briefing, part of the NCVOA, another guest speaker from the FBI. In the mayor's newsletter, I'll send out the two websites that are pretty interesting websites to see if some of your data has been breached. And I guarantee if I typed all of our personal email addresses in, you'd see that there's breaches on all of them. So it's kind of not very cool.
Get LifeLock. Sign up for LifeLock.
Pretty much you need that.
I have it. It's amazing. It's every time somebody looks you up or something, you get it. Yeah.
Or something equivalent.
140 bucks a year. It's worth it.
The big thing that we have to deal with as a village is Governor Hochul's plan for high-density housing on Long Island. So I don't know. I did send everybody a little synopsis. I've got you all. This is from the governor herself. Well, she wasn't at the call. Her staff came instead. I was really expecting the governor herself to be discussing this with all the villages. But it's a tough pill to swallow. Now, I get it. We all need housing for our children who want to move out of our homes and be able to stay on Long Island. For our elderly who want to downsize and be able to stay local and be able to have more affordable housing. But what she's trying to ram down the village's throats is unconscionable. She's trying to remove home rule to force us to change our zoning, specifically any property within a half-mile radius of a train station. And we have 2 train stations that actually within a half-mile radius do affect the village. It would mandate that we must change our zoning to allow 25 units of housing per acre. Now, I don't know what a unit of housing is. I don't know if that means a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. That hasn't been defined yet. So like Gary, did you see the map that I sent that I emailed you guys? I think that goes right to almost your property
I
line.
picked my house because I want to be close to the train station to walk.
So
And think of how much it'll be worth now that it could become an apartment building.
you'll have a nice apartment building right where you live. A lot of the homes by Chanticleer, down over even to Manhasset Woods Road is within a half-mile as the crow flies from the train station. So this really hasn't been well thought out by the governor. It makes sense for some parts of the state. It doesn't necessarily make sense for all parts of the state. And she is an upstater. I don't think she understands Long Island. And I'm very concerned about this. Additionally, she's requiring that villages add 3% annually new housing stock to their housing numbers. If we have 1,500 homes I'm using that as a rough number, that would mean 45 new homes annually we would have to have built in the village. I don't know.
How much percent?
3% annually. Yeah. So that's some big numbers to swallow. I'm really hoping that the governor changes her plan. Unfortunately, it's in the budget, so it's not like something that our legislators can vote for or against. They're probably going to vote for the budget. If this is hidden in the budget, then it's going to be a
Well,
problem.
I think from what we've seen at NCVOA, I think the support from the Long Island, both Republicans and Democrats are against this.
I was at a meeting of probably about 20 mayors last week,
Yeah.
and I don't care if you're
I
Democrat.
don't know
or
who's for.
Republican.
I don't know who's for this. I really don't. But
And the other great part is the governor's only requiring upstate to have 1% growth. You know, this is a bad thing for our fire department, water districts, police, schools, the environment. It's just not well thought out. I will be sending in the mayor's newsletter, I will include contact information for the governor, Senator Martins, and Assemblywoman Salitti, where everyone can email them with their displeasure to this. But we will fight this. NCVA will fight this. We're trying to work with the Suffolk County VOA as well. So there will be a concerted effort. If we have to litigate, this will get litigated. This is not just,
it's not happening.
it affects every village, town, and city on Long Island, and in a bad way. Let's see what else is on my little mayor's list. I did want to thank Rich for fixing the trucks. We didn't bring that up. Rich updated the lighting, upgraded the lighting on the payloader, which desperately needed it. And we had some maintenance issues with the trucks because they're older. And Rich was very good in getting all that stuff fixed. The chains on the salt, the salt spreader conveyors, that was all updated and such. So it's some good things. So we got some good stuff that's going to be fixed and upgraded. And so thank you, Rich. I think that's it for mayor's report. Trustees report?
Gary?
Nothing?
Yeah.
No, Gary's got
We
something.
need to approve annual fee for the Hempstead Harbor Protection Committee. And it hasn't changed from last year, so it's the same.
Okay, so a motion to approve the dues for the Hempstead Harbor Protection Committee. Trustee Lewandowski, do I hear a second? The number, the amount is, and this is, it hasn't gone up in
54.
2
Yeah, it's the
years,
same.
$5,445.
Well, it hasn't gone up since 2015. That's not just a few years. That's phenomenal.
Can I ask a quick question? Did you get Manhasset Bay also?
We just got it.
You just got, okay.
Yeah,
Because I
emailed,
sent-
when I emailed you, but it'll be for next month, not for this month. It came
Oh,
too
just
late.
probably-
And I don't think they're really raising theirs much, if anything, either.
I don't believe so.
I didn't look and see historically what the cost was on it.
I interrupted.
Okay, so a second,
I'll second.
trustee Dorfman, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is a good one. Next is, this time of year, every year, we, are asked by the state to provide our road mileage, and that's how they calculate our, CHIPS, which is our highway, money that we get every year, and it's calculated on the road mileage within the village. Now that Middle Neck Road belongs to the village, we can add that to our road calculations, an extra, little more than a half a mile. But in order to do this, we do need a resolution to accept responsibility for Middle Neck Road. The resolution reads, whereas Nassau County has transferred Middle Neck Road, coming after the road between Northern Boulevard and Port Washington Village to the village of Flower Hill via intermunicipal agreement dated February 24th, 2022. So pursuant to New York State Highway Law, Section 115B, and upon transfer of the road to the village will hereby has agreed to assume sole maintenance, ownership, and control of the road. Whereas the mileage of this 2-lane road, and here are the numbers, is plus or minus 0.51 miles, shall be included in the village's annual report of local highway mileage. Middle Neck Road is hereby adopted and will be included in the village's road inventory. So, asking for someone to offer that resolution.
I'll offer it.
Okay, that's, trustee Frankel. Do I
I guess you
hear
have
a
to second.
second? Trustee Lewandowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have a resolution to hold a public hearing regarding the recommendations of the Landmark Commission. And this is going to take place at the next board meeting, Monday, March 6th. And I will publish notice in the paper. So can I have a motion to pass this resolution?
Can we pass the resolution for all four, but before the public notice, decide if we want to proceed with all four? Or, because I was thinking to do two and then see how those go and then do another two. Because some of these could be lengthy, and I think having 4 public hearings
Yeah,
might
it's a lot.
use a lot of time.
Okay, so, Mr. Schwartz, which two?
I think I'd like to start with
Start
the
with
Flower Hill
Cemetery?
Cemetery and the Sands Barn.
Wait,
And Sanborn. Okay, so I'm
No
gonna,
objection to that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz.
I'm gonna amend the resolution that the Village of Flower Hill Landmark Commission will hold, the board will hold a hearing to consider the Landmark Commission's recommendations for Flower Hill Cemetery and the Sands Barn on March 6th. Do I hear a motion? Somebody offer that motion?
I'll offer the motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next. Okay.
Do
next-
number 3 first, then 4, and then we'll go back to
Good
2.
idea. Okay, so next is a resolution to introduce 2 local laws. Local Law D regarding building construction permitted hours, which is very unclear in our code. So we would be adding hours of construction to the building construction chapter of the code. Currently is only in the noise code. So this way somebody wanting to know about how to go about doing construction in the village would see in that chapter the hours of work. And the other one is,
It's in back.
the other one is to amend our noise chapter because it lists the individual holidays that no noise is permitted, like Martin Luther King Day and 4th of July, but instead of listing the holidays, to amend it to read all federal holidays.
Which is what we did for the other parts of our code recently, where we made it for all federal holidays when we added Juneteenth.
Right.
We just didn't add it to here. Plus, if we do add any other future federal holidays, by making it federal holiday schedule, we don't have to keep on changing our local laws anytime there's a change in the holidays. Maybe they remove a federal holiday, maybe they add a new one. So it just it's streamlining. This way we don't have to keep on changing our code every time there's a change.
Mr. Mayor, could I just mention that I think Jeff and I are going to have a suggestion for a slight tweak to language.
Yep.
Particularly in D, under paragraph H, committed hours. The concept of no construction on federal holidays snuck into the middle of a paragraph about hours of operation. And I think it would make more sense to have that separately stated.
Okay, that's
Okay, so
fine.
since we are introducing this law for next month, we'll make that amendment and distribute it to the board.
And then we'll post it accordingly. Thank you.
And the other comment that Jeff and I had, there's discussion in both laws for exceptions for urgent necessity, but it doesn't state how an urgent necessity will be determined or by whom. So that's something we can discuss and think about.
So since this is regarding construction, I think it would be upon upon application to the superintendent of buildings.
That seems reasonable. Peter, you're willing to accept that responsibility?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just did about the holidays. The confusion sometimes is the holidays on a Saturday, the official celebration or national holiday would be on a Monday. That's happened a couple times. And so I get, contacted, don't realize that.
But on the calendar of federal holidays, those Mondays are referred to as the federal holiday will be celebrated on Monday. So,
So they can work on Saturday then.
99% of our contractors call, can work on this day.
Right.
So, or I mean, put in when a holiday falls on a Saturday or Sunday, I don't think it's necessary. All right, so I'm going to make these amendments, when we have the public hearing next month, of course, it was distributed well in advance of the meeting. So I'm going to ask for someone to offer this resolution that proposed local law D, adding new section 85-3H, building construction, and proposed local law E, amending 158-2P, has been introduced. And the Board of Trustees will hold a public hearing on Monday, March 6th at 7:30, and then I will put a notice in the paper. Somebody ready to offer that myself?
Oh, I'll offer that
Oh, why, thank
resolution.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Second?
Second.
Everybody there? All in favor? finally, planning study.
All right. Planning study. This is something Brian and I started quite a while ago, a year maybe?
Yeah, probably.
Yep.
Good stuff.
So we finally got some movement on this. I would thank Jeff if he was here for working on this as well. The goal of this planning study really is to understand what properties in our village where there could be potential future development and get recommendations on what we can and can't do from a zoning perspective. There's there's 4 primary parcels that we've identified. One being the Vincent Smith School, St. Francis Hospital, the Di Stefano property, which for those of you who don't know, that's the one on Shore Road across from John Bean Court. We actually have waterfront property. And lastly, the North Hempstead Country Club. What we've seen in some of the other neighboring villages, like Roslyn Harbor and Port Washington, and on the other side of Hempstead Harbor from the village, there has been some proposed and some already constructed projects that could have some very negative effects on residents who would live nearby these projects, or potential projects, effects it would have on the environment, traffic, just the stuff we spoke about Governor Hochul's proposal, strains to our school, fire, water, sanitation, environment, et cetera. Other than the Flower Hill Apartments on Middle Neck Road and John Bean Court, the village is primarily single-family residences. I think we have 95 units in total of apartment and townhouses. I did a quick count of that. The last time we had any major development was 40 years ago, and that's when John Bean Court was built. So the goal of hiring the company to do a planning study is to make sure that we don't have any unwanted impacts on the village if these parcels are developed as of right now. Like an example is what happened, and I'll say the same example again, is with Roslyn Harbor, what Peter's dealing with right now. It's Engineers Country Club. That was zoned for 1 acre residential. And instead of knocking down the entire golf course and building maybe upwards of 200 homes possibly, if they developed it.
Not that many, but yeah. In other words, they look at it like average density.
Right.
Is the way it's.
So instead of doing that, their proposal in Roslyn Harbor is to build a smaller footprint, but I guess are they individual homes or are they attached?
There's one that I guess we call an apartment building, and then also townhomes attached, sort of like John Bean Court.
Right. So with these properties we have in the village that haven't been developed, I think it's time for us to do a planning study to understand what we can and can't do with these properties to prevent them from being developed, because I don't think we want what's happening in Roslyn Harbor to happen in our village. It's just too much, and it affects too many people. So I don't know if you had a chance to read this over. It's not the cheapest proposal, but
I was wondering, did we talk to anyone else besides Hope? Because I was thinking that this is kind of an important issue that we should really be talking to at least 2 or 3 people and just getting a sense of how they would go about doing a study like this.
I think I wish
Yeah.
Jeff was here.
Because this is, professional services contract.
Yeah, but it's irrespective of any need to competitively bid it, I'm saying it would be helpful.
Yeah, I think when we're ready
to
to go
get
out to bid.
professional advice from
Yeah.
different firms. I mean, we should see what their studies are like and understand what the material delivered, what the deliverables are on this kind of thing, so that we really see what we're getting. Rather than, I think, just kind of like, okay, we know these guys and, we trust them, I guess, and whatever it is, but I think it would be worthwhile to talk to a couple other
Yeah.
firms and just say, hey, what would, what, I mean, and first of all, I would say, what will they provide? What's the deliverable here?
Yeah, do you have any recommendations? Could you let me know? Absolutely.
Okay, because we can reach out to some other firms.
I mean, did we just say we want a study of these 4 areas and that's kind of the RFP that was sent out, or is there a?
We did not do an RFP because it's not.
We're not at,
Right, I know
we're
it's
not
not
at
required,
that
but
point.
But those are
something
so
written,
those are the 4 large undeveloped, those are the 4 large parcels in our village that could change from what they are now to something else.
Right.
There's
Yeah,
really
but
no other.
what we're doing right now is like, we asked a planner, what should we be asking for in an RFP? And then, but what you're suggesting, I think, is that we ask other planning companies, is there something else we should be asking for?
Well, I guess that's one way to think. My view on it was that, you just want to understand what we're paying for, what we're getting in the final piece of deliverable from them. So, and, we might stumble upon someone who has a more sophisticated approach than another. So that's all I'm suggesting is that.
I think this gives us a place to start on that, Gary. Like, that was the idea of, not knowing everything we were looking for in these properties, what the possibilities were. Started the conversation with them to say, hey, these are our concerns. We have a couple large pieces, acres of properties that could get developed if someone flipped them or sold them. Like, what could it be? How would we look at that? So I think it's a great idea to reach out to some additional companies, and we got something to work from.
And for the record, I left out Elder Fields Preserve. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Oh,
Elder
yeah,
Fields
yeah,
Preserve,
yeah.
that's the 5th one. I left that when I just
Right.
read you my list of properties.
That's, well, and, yeah.
So also to the point of what are we getting, there's a scope of services and fee estimate, so it lays out, right, the planning analysis task,
Mhm.
and what else we're gonna get, work sessions with the public, hearings.
Right, and I think we should carefully think about that, because I think that's actually a big piece. The public hearing, workshop sessions, whatever, with the community, those are kind of key things that really.
Yeah,
make
because
sure
the goal really is to not, as I said, I want to make sure what happened in Roslyn Harbor doesn't happen here. What's happening potentially up on Shore Road doesn't happen here. What's happened on the other side in Glen Head doesn't happen here.
All right, wasn't it Roslyn Country Club at 1.2? Down towards Williston Park?
Yeah.
That was sold, and they were dealing with large residential, developments overnight.
Oh, that wasn't, right, that was the tennis court and pool facility, not the country
Right.
club.
Yeah,
Right, yes,
yeah,
that one, yes.
Okay.
There's no golf course there, that's.
That's the Rosin
just-
Club, the Rosin
yeah.
Club.
Club, sorry.
This is the first time we're bringing this up as a board, so I mean,
Right.
there's still there's gonna be a long road.
And Mayor, I think the discussion on the second page of the steps that may be required to implement the plan is
Mhm.
very good and very comprehensive. One thing that I don't see mentioned is the potential need for a referral to the Nassau County Planning Commission, depending upon
Right.
what changes to the
Right.
code is needed.
Right, that has to,
Thank you.
All right, so Gary, if you can send us some
Yeah.
other recommendations, we'll
Yeah,
do that.
I was already working on it, but yeah, I will.
Okay, thank you.
great.
And as a reminder, send me that thing about trees.
It's buried in my old laptop.
I know. You'll find it eventually, but I'll keep on reminding you so you can remind me. All right, so we're not going to move forward on this until we get some more information, but I just wanted you all to be aware of hopefully the end game on this. No, it's something Brian started a while ago. And
Yeah.
hopefully I'm going to get it across the finish line at some point. So thank you, Brian. for this.
Okay, any further business? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
No public comment? No public comment.
If you see the agenda, which was posted on the website, public comment is the first item on
It
the
wasn't
agenda.
called, we were watching. We watched the whole thing.
We had public comment, yeah.
We can, we can,
Because you have.
I will gladly open it up to you, Dan. But if you were watching, you'd see Alexandra Dorfman did bring up a topic point.
Yes, but it wasn't called public comment, which is
Yeah, it
fine.
was.
She was great.
It was, but that's okay, yeah.
All right, in any event.
Read the agenda.
No,
The
speak,
agenda was posted as opposed to other days, which
Kate,
is my first comment on it.
bring up whatever you want to bring up. It's, yeah, please,
Randall.
please.
Thank you very much. So my first question having to do with your planning, your two-case planning thing, you talk about the parcels. And I think you have 4, but then you said there may be a 5th, the Elderfield Preserve.
No, it's 5. I just unfortunately only read 4 of them.
Okay, well, you describe them as soft, in quotes. My question is, what does soft mean? And then as to the parcels, you're talking about parcels that could be, as you said, flipped or sold, such as, say, St. Vincent's School. Is St. Francis planning to flip the hospital property and do something? I don't understand what you mean, because you're talking about the hospital parcel. I'm just not sure how you think that's gonna be developed. So that's just a question. You also talked earlier about Governor Hochul saying that she wants some zoning changes in villages and that it's a tough pill to swallow. You're talking about possibly having a huge thing about zoning. So why not have it all looked at together? Why are you picking out and cherry picking these soft parcels as opposed to having a comprehensive zoning review of the village? I'm just curious. You also, hold on a second. You also, when the planning board was abolished, it was abolished according to your minutes, ma'am. Due to the fact that the planning board members, I can't recall their names offhand, Rob Sidon, et cetera, had no experience. So my question would be, since it's now in your hands, what type of land use planning do the 7 of you, what kind of backgrounds do you have in land use planning? And if you could just explain it, it would be really helpful since these are gonna be huge issues in our village that you have now undertaken. And I think that the people who are undertaking it should have a background, not in architecture, but in land use planning. So if you could let us know, it would be really helpful. And then my last thing, I think, I'm sure I'll have more. Let's see.
How about we stop there, because why don't we start answering questions? In case if
Okay,
we
well,
have any-
that's what I do. Was there something handed out also from
Pile on all
the
the
attorney?
questions.
Did you hand out something? Was it part of the public record?
I do not have anything else.
I saw Ronnie did.
He
And well, it was during the attorney section.
That was
Is it a matter of public record? And if that's,
Absolutely.
could I have copies, please?
Yeah, you can forward.
Here, take, right
here,
Kate.
Foil it?
Kate,
Is it
Kate,
not part of the public record?
It's just,
Foil it.
it's the zoning report. You can have the zoning
It's a
report.
report. Thank you. Is this the only thing that was handed out?
Yes.
And the expenses went on either this month.
I'm sorry?
The expenses, Ronnie. The expenses. So,
I'm referring to.
whatever's in your packet, whatever you guys voted on, should be online.
Everything that was available
So-
at the time of publication was on.
This isn't an inquisition, we're just trying to, it's our village, it's not your village. We're trying to be proactive. So, and then I met, if you.
Well, if it wasn't part of what was posted, I apologize, because
No.
it should have been part of
It
it.
should.
It has been in other months, and
Of
if
course
it
it
wasn't
is.
this
Right,
month,
wasn't
then
it?
It is when she chooses to.
It was
I'll disagree with
That's all
that.
it is.
It might have been an oversight. I didn't review the packet that was posted. I
Okay.
review what I get in my inbox.
Whatever you guys have for your package should be online.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm interested in the answers to some of the things that Kate asked, but, I mean, I would like the answers.
What is your name, by the way?
Oh, Frank, my name is Aaron Tung. You should remember me because you yelled. at me last
I
time.
just asked for your name, that's all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you want to answer 2 questions first before I speak?
No,
We've been talking about the expansion from St. Francis since 2020. When-
Right, it's 3 years later, how's that going?
Frank,
Okay,
let her
just-
talk, let her
just-
talk.
just curious
She
how
has
it's
the right-
going with
She has,
the
no,
expense.
Starting
Frank,
again with me, and
She
I
has
don't appreciate it.
she has the right.
You came in here to be
Frank,
disruptive, so
Frank,
don't.
I'm not being disruptive.
She
I
has the
have a
right to
be
speak.
here,
You can
and
speak.
I have a right to be here, and
Please.
really, the only thing I wanted to say is that to all you board members is that we knew that St. Francis was gonna expand when Mayor McNamara was here. We all knew that. And I'm not gonna stand here in the way of a hospital expanding in a community. That's something that needs to happen. We're growing as a community, we're growing as a population. I'm in the world of healthcare, I understand that hospitals need to expand. What I would ask of all of you standing here, sitting at the board, is that you would keep the residents in your mind as part of the decisions that are going to be made on the expansion. And be transparent about it. Don't, Randall, remember when the first house was sold, you laughed at me and you said, oh, the nuns are gonna be living there.
But the nuns
We
were
know-
living in there.
But we know that Swazi came here in 2020, talked about St. Francis buying 11 houses.
Swazi never.
Let Frank, let her go.
Oh, Jack Mormon, sorry. All I'm saying is that these connections with the expansion of St. Francis go all the way up to Albany. And there's no way that anybody's gonna stop that from happening. We know it's all gonna happen. And your whole idea about doing a planning, who's gonna pay for that? Don't you think St. Francis should pay for that? Because this underlying current of maybe St. Vincent's being sold, or the country club that's been around since the 1800s being sold, it's a camouflage for the planning commission for the expansion of St. Francis. We know that. Just say it and get St. Francis to pay for it. Because if Nelson and Pope is gonna do it, it's gonna be $200K to do something like that. Let's just be open about it and talk about what it actually is, Brian. Let's talk about actually what it is, which you've known about since when Mayor McNamara was alive in here. So all I'm asking you is to be the advocate for the residents that you represent. And that's my own sole purpose of being here. My husband keeps asking me, what are you getting out of this? What are you getting out of this? I'm not getting disruptive, Frank. I'm getting out of this to have,
I didn't say you were disruptive.
I'm getting out of this to have 165 Woodhull be represented when they have a parking lot in their backyard. Or that the Elder Fields Preserve be preserved so that there's a buffer between a parking lot and the rest of our village. Think about our residents and not just what Albany is reaching down and asking you to do. That's why I'm here, and that's what I'm asking you to do.
Thank you.
Public comment is
Thanks. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll make a motion to end this month's board meeting.
I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
I figured you'd get